Hello there. I wanted to talk about a very sensitive subject or touching subject, and it's to do with stop and search, the human story. So, as you know, I'm going to read it. And yes, let's get on with it because I've only got 10 minutes. There's a moment many people never have to think about. It's the moment when blue lights flash behind you and your stomach drops before you've even done anything wrong. For some, it's a mild inconvenience. For others, it's a warning flare, bright, unavoidable, and loaded with a history that doesn't belong to them, but still clings to them like smoke. Tonight, I want to talk about that moment. Not the headlines, not the statistics, not the heated debates that happen in studios or on social media, but human beings standing in the cold on the side of the road, palms sweating, heart racing, praying that this interaction will end with nothing more than a story to tell. Because behind the numbers on disproportionality, behind the fact that black people in the UK are stopped far more than their white counterparts, is a quieter truth. A truth about the emotional cost, the dignity lost, and the fear passed from one generation to the next. Let me tell you about one of those nights. A fictional story, but a story made from 1,000 real ones. It was just after 10 o'clock. Marcus, a 32-year-old project engineer, was driving home from a late shift when he noticed a police car behind him. No sirens, no lights, just following. He felt that old familiar tension rise in his chest, a feeling he had learnt to live with, a feeling he'd been taught by his father who'd been taught by his father before him. He checked his mirror, slowed a little, signalled properly at the next turn, but still the police car lingered. And then came the blue lights. He pulled over, engine off, hands visible. He remembered what his dad used to say, "Son, stay calm. Show them your hands. Don't argue. Just make it home." Two officers approached. They said they had reason to believe the vehicle was connected to a suspicious activity. They didn't say what activity. They didn't say why his car on this night with this driver. Marcus asked calmly, "What description fits me or the car?" "Don't get cocky, lad," comes the response. They asked him to step out. They asked him to lift his jacket. They asked him to empty his pockets. He complied. He complied because he wanted to live. He complied because he knew saying no could be interpreted as aggression. He complied because he had seen too many videos, too many news stories, too many names that became hashtags. 9 minutes later, they told him he was free to go. Nothing found. No offence committed, just routine checks. Routine for Marcus didn't feel like routine. It felt like something had been taken from him, some small part of his confidence, his peace, his sense of safety in a country he had given nothing but good citizenship to. He sat in his car afterwards, hands trembling, slightly on the wheel. He wasn't thinking about statistics. He wasn't thinking about politics. He was thinking about how he would explain this to his mother and how he hoped she would never know how scared he had actually been. So why does this happen? Behind encounters like Marcus is a larger landscape, a landscape where stereotypes become shortcuts, where assumptions can grow unchecked, where some officers consciously or unconsciously see danger on certain faces before they see humanity. Sometimes it's based on real crime patterns, sometimes it's based on flawed intelligence, sometimes it's based on nothing more than a feeling. And sometimes it's based on the kind of stories society tells about blackness, that black equals criminal, that black equals drug user, that black equals threat. Even in countries where cannabis has been legalised, the image of the black drug user remains stubbornly alive in the British imagination. It shapes suspicion. It shapes who gets pulled over. It shapes who is asked to empty their pockets by the side of the road. And when 60 to 70% of those stops lead to no further action, the question becomes, If they weren't looking for danger, what were they looking for? And why were they looking for it here? People often talk about the practical impact. Lost jobs, lost earnings, lost opportunities, but there are emotional costs too. The humiliation of being watched, doubted, suspected. The fear of an encounter escalating without explanation. The pressure to stay calm even when your heart feels like a drum in your chest. And it doesn't end with the individual. It ripples out to families, to children, to communities. A son comes home shaken, a mother lies awake worrying, a whole community learns to tread carefully, cautiously, quietly. That is the cost. That is the price of disproportionality. Imagine being stopped when you don't fit a description. Imagine knowing before you even hear the word that the real match isn't your car or your clothes or your behaviour, but your skin. Imagine rehearsing in your head the tone of voice that won't scare anyone, the sentence that won't be mistaken for attitude, the movements that won't be read as a threat. Imagine feeling like you have to perform your own innocence, and imagine the resentment that seeds itself quietly in the corner of your chest, not because you hate police, but because you hate the feeling of not being treated like everyone else. So what needs to be changed? For policing to be fair, officers must be trained not only in law, but in humility, self-awareness, and the weight of power. Bias tests at recruitment only work when applicants are honest. So the real answer isn't just testing, it's culture. A culture where racist behaviour, overt or hidden, has no place to hide. A culture where officers challenge each other. A culture where community trust matters as much as arrest rates. A culture where protect and serve includes protecting the dignity of the innocent, because those who want power simply to wield it should never have a badge that grants it. And then there is the question of accountability. When people face injustice like wrongful stops, wrongful suspicions, wrongful accusations, not everyone can take the case to court. Not everyone has the money, the stamina, the years of emotional strain. So the system must carry that burden instead, not the individual. Better oversight, better review mechanisms, better data, better consequences for misconduct. That is how racism is rooted out, not with slogans, but with structure. There are, of course, good officers who check themselves, officers who understand the history they step into when they put on a uniform, officers who see dignity before suspicion. And there are places where community policing has improved relationships, where officers walk the streets they police, where conversations happen before confrontations, where young people learn the police are there for them, not against them. But these pockets of hope must become the blueprint, not the exception. We know the police have a difficult job, we know crime exists, we know officers face danger too, but we also know that dignity is not optional, respect is not conditional, humanity is not negotiable. Stop and search can be a legitimate tool. It can prevent harm, it can save lives, but when the tool is used unevenly, shaped by stereotype rather than suspicion, by bias rather than behaviour, it ceases to be protection. It becomes pressure, it becomes trauma, it becomes its own kind of harm. And if we want a fairer future, a safer future, we must build a policing system where every person, no matter their race, can stand at a roadside or on a pavement and know one thing for certain: I will be treated with dignity, I will be treated with fairness, I will be treated as human. Because until that moment is guaranteed, the flashing blue lights will continue to mean something very different depending on the colour of the skin they fall on. So that was a very kind of, it's a combination of incidents, it's a combination of what happens, it explains disproportionality, I hope. It kind of explains what goes on in the mind of policemen, why there are stereotypes, and how the actual individual feels when they're stopped, or when they're on the street and they know they're going to be stopped just because they're black, just because they look a certain way. So I hope this gives you a little insight to the human story and stop and search. And that's all I've got to say for now. You take care now. Bye-bye.